Good morning. It's Monday morning devotional time. I'm Celia Rothas. I'm the director of Children and Family Ministries at Summit Church in Durango, Colorado. So welcome. Thank you all for joining me. I know we have people usually trickling in a little bit later, so not to worry. We're going to get this started. You guys can watch it from the beginning if you guys like. And I am so excited because I always see new people each week, which I love because I'm like, oh, okay, I just met them last week and they're checking us out, or they know me personally and I put it on my personal page. So I really do like seeing you guys all joining me each Monday. And even if it's later in the week or in the evening, it just makes my heart happy. So thank you guys. I titled this segment, Failure is Not an Option, ... Or is it? We like to, I think, focus on our weaknesses. And sometimes we forget that it's okay to fall short, dust off our knees, and pick ourselves back up and let's go. So this weekend, today's meditation moments, Aaron preached this last weekend, and he has us reading in Acts chapter 7, verses 54 through chapter 8 through verse 3. Also then going into the story following that, chapter 9, verses 1 through 9 and 20 through 22. And that is the journey of Saul to Paul. So Saul used to persecute Christians. He used to go and travel at great lengths because he felt like it was wrong. And he was morally obligated to imprison these people who were professing their faith in a way that he did not agree with. And so he was traveling from Jerusalem to Damascus. Sorry, I had something in my eye. When God met him on the road, he said, whoa, Saul, why do you persecute me? Gosh, what a big question. Why do you persecute me? Aaron, in his sermon this weekend, if you haven't had a chance to watch it, please do. He talked about how God in that moment is asking a very big question. He says, why do you persecute me? He doesn't say, why do you persecute my people? Why do you persecute me? And in saying that and asking that question, he's saying how you treat everyone else is how you're treating me. What does that look like in your life? Are there moments where you didn't treat someone very well? How do you overcome that? We also heard from Rob, Jake, and Janelle as our Enneagram 1s on staff. They are the largest number of us, which is funny because I'm a 6, and everyone keeps telling me that 6s are the most common and everyone's a 6. And yet I have only met 1 or 2 other 6s, and on staff it's 1s and 4s and 5s. And so I'm like, well, that doesn't reflect our staff, as 6s being the most common, but that's all right. I actually wore this hat today for my 1s in my life. Failure is not an option, from NASA. My family in high school, when I was in high school, my family went down to Florida and visited the space station, which was amazing, super cool. Highly recommend it if you're thinking about a trip sometime in the future. But one of the things that I loved from Janelle is that she focuses a lot of times on things that are imperfect, things that are not done in a certain way. And she says that she needs to remind herself that God has unconditional love and grace for her. I think we all need that reminder that God has unconditional love and grace for each one of us. When we have a failure, when we fall short, when we scrape our knees and, have scrapes on our elbows, God has gone before us and he loves us still. Another thing that the ones talked about this weekend, the ones I say, Rob, Janelle, and Jake, they all 3 talked about how much they love serving people, which is amazing because, and maybe kind of funny, because they work at a church. And so they're constantly serving people, but they love serving others. And so the family activity is to take a piece of paper, put a piece of paper in front of each person. And on that piece of paper, you're going to draw a large gift. It'll be different colors, different shapes, different sizes, but draw a large gift. And then go around the table. Talk about ways in which each person has different attributes or gifts or personalities. And how does that help them to help others? How does that help them to shine light into others' lives? What gifts can they give to others? Now, it could be physical, but it could also be time. It could be love. It can be compassion. What are some ways, what are some gifts that you have and your family members have in order to shed some light into someone's life? And then I want you to go a step further once you've done that, to ask yourselves, where have you served in the past? As a family, as an individual, what are some of those areas where you've served? And then, I know, third step, and then I want you to, as a family or as a single person or individual or couple or with grandparents, etc., I want you to look at your calendar and I want you to mark out a day, a couple hours, an afternoon, and I want you to serve in some way. That is the family activity for this week. You don't have to serve this week, but you have to put it on your calendar. So make sure that you are thinking that through. What ways can you serve together as a family or in different areas, different interests? We have a lot of things going on at the church that you can absolutely check out. One of the ways that's near and dear to my heart is our Methodist thrift shop. It is a great way to serve our community. The thrift shop has been around for I think this year's 51 years. And so they have given back to this community in so many different ways. They take donations in the back, they sort them in the back, they fix them in the back if they need to, and then they send them out to the front to be sold. And they have the best prices in town, and it all goes back to the Durango community. They support families, they support our food banks, they support our homeless, they support our retired veterans, you name it, they support it. And so that's a great way to go in. You can sort in the back, sort clothes, look at things that maybe aren't really reusable and recycle them. They need more hands, and we're actually in the process of hiring a new director. So if you know someone who has a heart for people, is God-focused, and has some retail experience, email me, celia@summitdurango.org, because I'd love to hear from you. And we have a job description that's uploaded onto our Summit Durango page. And so you can look at that. And again, send me a cover letter, resume, so that we can get the ball rolling. Lori Bruner has been a wonderful director for the last 25 years. And she is retiring at the end of this year, so she has some big shoes to fill. But it's a really exciting time in the thrift shop. So it's on 2nd Avenue. Check us out. Come volunteer. Again, that's my plug. Okay, moving along. So one of the things that I love to do is to kind of this is silly, go back in time. You can't physically go back in time, but unless you watch Tenet, in which case they can. But I like to see, I always say hindsight is 2020. I like to see where God is. And one of the practices that we do through our devotionals and through our church meetings and everything else is to have glory sightings, have some moments where we reflect on God's goodness and where he has surrounded us. And this week, I actually got to spend a day in my old stomping grounds. I went out to Soaring Treetop Adventures, where I still work one day a week. And it's a zipline excursion for those of you that don't know. It's a day-long trip, and you ride the train, and you're in the middle of the San Juan National Forest and along the Animas River, and it's just so beautiful. almost indescribable. And so I worked on Thursday there, and I spent my Friday kind of moseying about. I hammocked by the river and I read a book. I may have taken a little nap as well. And then I walked around and went to, there's an old dude ranch that's, just a mile down the railroad tracks. And it's all the old cabins are where the staff stay. And so my first year there, I worked there full time. And so I walked around, I went into my old cabin. And I love walking back through memory lane again, because you get to see hindsight's 2020. All those memories come flooding back. All those times of laughter and joy, of fear and frustration, of music, of dancing. All of these places where God was so present in my life that summer. And it was bittersweet. You see it and you just reminisce a bit. And it was really just a really fun day. And so that's my glory sighting. I hope you guys take some time to jot it down in the notes section for me to read later. I always go back. I always pray over you guys. And I love hearing what you guys are doing in your lives. But anyways, that's my glory sighting. And the memory verse for this week is, "But God showed his love to us. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us." I go back to the title of this devotional today as "Failure is not an option, ... or is it?" One struggle with this notion of right and wrong. And when they've done something wrong, they feel it so deeply. Or they've made a wrong choice that they thought was so right. And in that, they feel like they've fallen short, that God can't love them anymore. Jake, I think, talked about this. Actually, Jake and Rob both talked about this, how they have to strive and work for God's love. And they have to constantly remind themselves that that's not right. God loves us no matter what. When we fail, God still loves us. He goes before us. I want to read to you. I'm kind of... I won't say obsessed, but I love this song. It's called "The Father's House" by Corey Asbury. It's so good. It's so good. And there's so many nuggets of like, ooh, yes, of the lyrics. And so I'm going to read to you the lyrics. I included the link to the song in the description, so you can click on it and go visit it in YouTube. You can just search it as well, "The Father's House," and it'll come up. But I want to end our devotional today together, and I want to read these lyrics, but I want you to close your eyes. I want you to really hear what God has for you today, and hear that your failures don't define you. Christ does. So, because he went before us, he died for our sins while we were still sinners, and that's again Romans 5:8. I don't know that I said that. Romans 5:8 is our memory verse for today, this week. Okay. Close your eyes. Sometimes on this journey, I get lost in my mistakes. What looks to me like weakness is a canvas for your strength. And my story isn't over. My story has just begun, and failure won't define me, because that's what my Father does. Lay your burdens down here in the Father's house. Check your shame at the door, because it ain't welcome anymore. You are in the Father's house. Arrival's not the end game, the journey's where you are. You never wanted perfect, you just wanted my heart. And the story isn't over if the story isn't good. That line, I love that line. And the story isn't over if the story isn't good. Push through. And failure's never final when the Father's in the room. Prodigals come home. The helpless find hope. Love is on the move when the Father's in the room. Prison doors fling wide. The dead come to life. Love is on the move when the Father's in the room. Miracles take place. The cynical find faith, and love is breaking through when the Father's in the room. The Jericho walls are quaking. Strongholds now are shaking. Love is breaking through when the Father's in the room. Lay your burdens down here in the Father's house. Check your shame at the door, because it ain't welcome anymore. You are in the Father's house. Take those words with you. Remind yourself to lay your burdens down at God's feet. Tell him to take your shame, take your fear, take your failures away from you so that you can walk boldly into your story, on your journey. Cross paths with people, share God's light and his love for you and them always. Don't forget that. I love you all. Take care. Have a great week, and I will see you all